Hey guys, welcome back to Woods Tree Farm. I'm Phil. Look what we have here today. I'm excited about this. I've been talking about this for a while now, and it's finally here, and we get to demo the Typhoon RCA 500. This is their top of the line machine. I was able to meet up with Ryan from Typhoon several weeks ago now, and we demoed this at Reeves Timber. We only had time to put a couple logs through it, and now that it's here, I get to try it with a variety of wood, a variety of sizes. We have 3 wedges to try. I've got a 4-way wedge. Installed on the machine now is a 6-way wedge. I don't know if you can see that in there. And Ryan called that their big 6-way. They've got another 6-way wedge that does a slightly different pattern. But what this one does is ends up cutting some slightly larger pieces. So I've got 2 totes here, or 1 and a partial of stuff I've already done while I was getting acquainted with the machine. But you can see here, there's some slightly bigger pieces that come off that 6-way, and good for, you know, wood stoves and that kind of stuff. And what I did here, and we're going to continue to do this morning, is cut some 12-inch wood. And I have a bunch of smaller diameter logs that are just a chore to do by hand because it's a lot of cutting and you don't end up getting a lot of wood out of it. So I think I put this crate and a half, I think yesterday when I set this up, was like 10 or 11 logs. And 10 or 11 logs, that's all we got. So that's like 1/3 of a cord of wood, and that's it. But you can see here, like, that's a single split. That was a like little 4 or 5 inch diameter thing. And I'm doing 12-inch wood because I've had some people ask in the past, and I've never really had that much of it. But for smaller wood stoves and your portable smokeless fire pits, I actually just recently picked one up myself, so I'll be able to kind of demo the appropriately sized wood for some of those fire pits. But the like Solo Stove Ranger and the Ozark Trail from Walmart, and there are a dozen other off-brands on Amazon of these smokeless fire pits that are smaller, and I think they're only, like, total diameter is 15 inches, but the opening at the top is less than that. So ideally, I think 12-inch wood is about the right size wood for those. So in my other video, there's going to be a link as a pinned comment and in this video's description. If you want to see this thing set up and get the walk around and the explanation and all that from Ryan at Typhoon, you got to go check out that other video. I'm not going to go in depth with like the full walk around here, but there are 2 or 3 things that I think I want to point out that we didn't cover the last time we saw this machine. This machine does have the sawdust extractor, and I'm actually set up now to capture that. So it's got the tube, it'll blow the sawdust out, and I cut open an IBC tote bladder here. And I actually just today tied this up in that way because when it was just resting down in the tube, it was kind of like blowing sawdust everywhere. So I think this might work a little bit better. We'll see how that goes today. The other thing is, underneath the machine, there is loads of debris, and that's because it does have kind of this little grizzly bar set up right here where the wood comes out, so a lot of your sawdust and bark chips and all that kind of stuff fall through to the ground. So I'm going to put something down there to capture that. That'll make our cleanup effort a little bit easier. And then the third thing is, because this machine is mounted on this deck over trailer, and the height of that trailer obviously adds to the operating height of the machine, my little Kubota L3901 tractor cannot quite reach high enough to get up to where that was. Actually, it can just reach like this, but there were bars right here that were angled that you're supposed to drop the logs over, and that keeps wood from rolling back off of the deck and helps you drop wood on it so that it feeds toward the deck. And anyway, those bars were too high, so I had to remove them. So I don't think this is recommended, but we're going to be extra careful when dropping logs on the deck, and that's the only way it's going to work with my tractor. I was going to show you the wood that I've got over here. There is a lot of smaller diameter stuff. This one, for example, where are we at? Right here. This is one where I'll probably try to push that through an 8-way wedge, and I've got some separating to do because everything that's smaller than that will go through the 6-way. But the 8-way wedge, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works, especially on some of this oak. Most of what I have in here is relatively knot free, and I don't think I'm going to really challenge it too much with this wood that I have here, and knowing that some of the really knotty stuff just doesn't go through the processor. I do have some more knotty logs that I plan on cutting with a chainsaw. Processor's just not made for that, but I've got a lot of processor grade stuff in here that is nice and straight and will do great on that machine. And then we've got stuff like this, all that small stuff, which is going to be a chore to do with the chainsaw and do by hand, will be great to do on here, and you'll see in a minute how quick it goes. I've got my bin for my cutoffs ready right there. I've got my debris trap down there. I've got the sawdust bin ready to go. Let's cut some firewood. Should have had it warming up while I was loading the logs. couple observations here real quick. We filled these 3 totes, but the conveyor did miss some of the wood. Some of the wood got thrown off the top, and you can adjust the speed and the angle on the conveyor and all of that, and I tried to tinker around with that a little bit, but we still missed a little bit. Not a big deal. There's something else over here. Whenever the conveyor is angled off to one side or another, it leaves a gap on the side, and this is probably more of a problem because I'm doing shorter wood, but the wood, some of the wood slides out down here before it gets picked up by the conveyor. So I've already picked up numerous pieces off of the ground, but I think it's something to watch out for because there's some hydraulic stuff over here, and if there's a piece that's wedged in over here in the wrong way and you go try to move the conveyor back, there's a possibility of maybe breaking something over here. Definitely something to keep an eye out on. I think if I'm doing longer wood, this might be less of an issue, but I'll be watching it as I switch it over. So the debris catcher's doing great. We've got a bunch in there. I can cut lots more before it's full. I didn't think this through all the way. I have the grapple on the tractor. That's easier for loading logs on the deck and moving logs around, but I need pallet forks for moving these crates and bringing some more crates in. So I'll go ahead and load some logs real quick. We'll swap back over the pallet forks. I'll probably just leave the pallet forks on for a while, and any moving around of logs I need to do, we'll just do with the forks, even though it's a little bit slower. I had to relieve the pressure in order to get that other part of the valve off. Not the valve, whatever that thing is, coupling. Alright, now we can do forks. we're going to do this next deck of logs now, and the next 3 totes are going to be 16-inch wood, my normal length. And the second to last log on there, you can see it's got a big old crook in it. I don't know if it'll go in the machine, but we'll find out. Let me show you how we're going to change the length. So this stop here, we can unthread and just move it over to a different position. Now this is all metric, so we need to ask Google. How many centimeters is 16 inches?
16 inches is equal to 40.64 centimeters.
Thank you. So we're going up to 40. Pull that out. Shift that over to, I think it's there. You know how we can double check it? Let's get a tape measure and we can pull this down and measure from there to there.
And you're live.
So from the bar to the stop, just inside 16. And if we went to the next stop, we would actually be like 16.75, I think. So that's where we're gonna be. So we've now got over 4 crates full. That is equal to a cord of wood. And I can say, I like this machine a lot better than the Dyna that I rented before. It is faster, easy to use, more intuitive, and makes a better product. One thing I didn't point out, and it's going to be a little difficult to film it, I might try to get it on the next video, because the next video I'm going to swap out and put the 8-way wedge on, and we'll do some bigger wood. But the wedge has an automatic wedge height adjustment, and when the clamp goes down to hold the log in place during the sawing motion, it calculates the diameter of the log at that point and automatically sets the height of the wedge, so every split is centered. And what you get with that is much more consistent size pieces and a lot less of the little slivers and odd shapes. There's always still some, but compared to what I was doing manually with the Dyna, this is getting a much more consistent product. So that one log with a big old bend in it, more work than it's worth. I'm not going to put any more like that through there. I could have just quickly chopped 2 or 3 blocks off with the chainsaw, gotten just the straight section of wood up on the log deck and fed it right in without having to fight it. But it went in. It was just a chore. And you know, if we're trying to just maximize productivity, fighting that kind of stuff on this machine is not worth it, in my opinion. So there's going to be a couple videos with this thing going on, and I know I've got the larger diameter stuff and the 8-way wedge. I've got some other small diameter stuff. I've got some barbecue and some cooking wood. We'll see how hickory does through this machine. I've got some hickory that I know has some knots and stuff in it. That might end up being a little bit of a challenge for the machine, but we'll see. Everything today so far has been all white oak, and it's nice and smooth, nothing too knotty, nothing too big. Nothing today was a challenge except for that crooked piece, and that was more a challenge for me trying to feed it into the machine. But the machine was able to push through everything that it had. So I'm gonna wrap this one up. Thanks for watching today, guys, and if you haven't already, go check out the first demo walk around and the description of all the features and benefits of this machine. I'll drop a link in the pinned comment. Hope you guys have a good one. Stay safe. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.